Hey everyone, welcome to Sequence of Instructions. Thanks for joining me. In this video, we're going to be learning about asynchronicity. I mentioned it briefly in the previous video, but essentially what it is an aspect of JavaScript where elements can run not in the normal linear order. So if you recall, if we write code normally, it kind of just executes from top to bottom. So this would do this line first, then it would do this line, and it would carry on, and it would keep doing lines until it reached the end of the program, and then it would stop. Well, asynchronicity is a way for you to get tasks done that don't have to occur in line here, in sequence with the other events, but that might be important. In many cases, those things can't occur in line in sequence, but remain important. And so I'll give you a quick example and show you how this works. But before I do, you may recall I mentioned that not everything we learn in these advanced concept videos are going to apply to all languages. And asynchronicity is kind of one of them, but I like to think of it conceptually as a term called multi-threading, which does appear in most other languages. And so while this concept doesn't necessarily directly relate to all languages, it appears in variation in almost all of them. And again, so this is how JavaScript does it. This is an example that uses JavaScript in the browser to kind of illustrate the point, but just bear in mind that it does kind of translate to most other languages. All right, so the example I'm going to use is there's this service, this is the website, that will give you basically your location as a JSON object. Basically, something a JavaScript object notation is what JSON stands for. So basically, you can make a request to this URL, and it'll give you some data about where your current device is located. And I've used this in one of my other projects before, but I'm going to use it here just to illustrate how events could occur out of order, and also how we can then leverage callbacks to handle that data as it comes in out of order. All right, so for this, I've loaded jQuery. You can go up here, add library. I loaded jQuery. I don't remember which one. It doesn't matter. We just want to use jQuery's AJAX thing, which stands for asynchronous JavaScript and XML, something like that. So don't get too hung up on the syntax here if you're not familiar with it. Basically, I'm just saying I want to make an AJAX call, an asynchronous call. I'm going to tell jQuery to what site I want to make it to, this URL site. Make an AJAX call to that site, and I'm going to say when you get the data back, do something with it. You'll see here, this is basically an object. See our curly braces. That means we made an object. One of the keys is URL, which tells jQuery where to go. And the other one is the success key. And this is going to be our callback. And just to really illustrate that it's a callback, I'm going to do it like this. So here's syntax we're maybe a little more familiar with. I define my callback variable, and I'm going to pass my function, because remember functions are data types, as the value to the success key in this object that I'm giving to the AJAX function in jQuery. It's a little confusing, but just to show that it does happen out of order, I'm going to say starting. I'm going to say down here, and then in my callback, I'm going to also log received, meaning we received the payload. And I'm going to also just to illustrate that the website does actually do what it says it's going to do. My callback's going to take some data. I'm going to print the city, and I'm going to print the country. Now I know that these properties exist because I read the documentation for this. If you're at all familiar with it, I'll put a link to the actual endpoint that we're using in the description of this video, so you can check it out there if you want to get more info on it. It gives you a lot more data than just this, city and country, but this is what I want to use. So what's going to happen? Well, okay, so from what we know so far about JavaScript, we declare this variable, URL, it's a string. It comes down here, we declare some callback function, which is going to take a parameter, data, and it's going to print some properties of that object. We then come down here, we're going to log starting. Excuse me. We're going to do an AJAX call, an asynchronous call, to the designated URL and callback that we made above. Then we're going to print down here. Now conventionally this is going to be, you might think, if it was all linear, that right when we make this call, it's then going to go into this callback function and do this. But again, this is asynchronous, which means it's not going to happen in the linear order that we're familiar with. So what's actually going to happen is starting is going to print. It's going to fire off a request. And while it's waiting for this request to come back, you know, pages take a moment or two to load. While it's waiting for this request to come back, it's going to carry on. It's going to print down here. And then only once it's finished this whole function is it going to then handle the request when the request comes in, or if the request came in. So basically JavaScript works with this. It has a single thread, but like I said, it's conceptually similar to multi-threads in that it can do events out of order. But because it is still single-threaded, it's not going to be able to handle this callback until it's finished its current scope. Okay, so again, what we should see is starting, then it's going to print down here. Then it's going to print received because the request will have come back. And obviously after it prints received, it should tell you what city and country I'm in. Let's see if it works. It did. So again, it came down, it printed starting. It then fired off the request, but the request doesn't come back immediately. So while it's waiting for the request to return, it's going to carry on. It's going to come down here, print down here, then finishes all of its instructions in this scope. It's now going to wait for the request to return. The request returns, it prints I received it, and then it prints my city and country. And as you can see, I'm in New York, in the United States. So if any of you didn't know that, if you're my neighbor maybe, let me know. We'll hang out, go to a meetup. But there you have it. Anyway, so this video just illustrates the properties of asynchronicity, and also what maybe should have been the keystone of this is that callback functions are used to kind of treat asynchronicity. So Ajax, just to really drive it home, it knows it's going to make a request, and it doesn't know what it's going to do when it gets that request. I tell it what to do by giving it this function. I pass it a piece of data, a function that tells it how to treat whatever it returns. And so that just goes to show you the power of first-order functions. Anyway, hope you got something out of this video. If you have any questions, leave a comment, shoot me a note. Happy to get back to you. Until next time, take care. Bye.